Well, really, I can just wait to see. I see. We're live. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's episode of Paranormal Encyclopedia. I am your host, Kevin Mears, demonologist, paranormal investigator, and the Paranormal Encyclopedia. And this chucklehead.
I'm Brian McKinley, paranormal author and godfather of vampire thrillers.
There, you finally got it right.
Yes.
So, we actually finally...
Only took 12 tries?
Longer than that, man. But we have our first formal sponsor, in point of fact, folks.
Yay!
Tonight's episode and many more is being sponsored by Audible. For those of you who don't know Audible, it is a absolutely phenomenal website in which you can get audiobooks at a very reasonable price.
Yeah. It's connected to Amazon, so you can pretty much click on the audiobook link on any book on Amazon if it has one, and it'll take you to Audible.
And fun fact, Brian's books are all available on Audible.
Yes. All three of my novels, Ancient Blood, Ancient Enemies, and Drawing Dead, are on there, all narrated by the fantastic Brian Rollins, who is a professional voice actor.
And extra bonus, just for listening to us, if you look at the bottom of the screen, there should be a link there, which is audibletrial.com/paranormal with the letter E.
Yep, it's there.
And again, audibletrial.com/paranormal-E. If you go to that link, and if you don't have an Audible account, go to that link, sign up. You get a free 30-day trial, and you get a free audiobook. Yes. So you can go ahead. If you've been listening to us and you think Brian sounds like a cool guy, you want to experience one of his books, you can get a free copy of it.
Trust me, my writing is much better than my radio hosting ability.
And obviously, you don't have to. We'd like it, but you don't have to pick Brian's book. There's lots of other options up there: fantasy, horror, science fiction.
Thousands.
Lots of paranormal books. I was scrolling through that, keeping an eye out for guests.
Yes, yeah, some really good stuff up there.
And we do get. It helps us out if you guys do that. So it's free for you and beneficial to the show. If anybody wants to help us out but doesn't have the money to kick to our Patreon or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So tonight we're going to actually be having a guest, which is our friend Steampunk Bess. She's a steampunk witch. We're waiting for her to call in, I believe. Have we heard from her yet? Huh.
So I'm going to have to ask her.
Yeah, I'm going to check.
What differentiates a steampunk witch? Does she power her spells through steam machines?
Oh, I did mix up the number. Oh, wait, no, she gave me... No, I'm looking at her number. Okay, I don't think I mixed up the number. Let me check. 609... Yeah, yep, I got it right.
Okay. Hopefully she hasn't been trying to call in for the last, 20 minutes. And not getting through.
I just sent her a message. Probably just got a little wires crossed, maybe on time or something like that.
Is she in a different time zone?
I don't think so. But
all right. So, also recently you've been loading up videos.
Yes, I'm also. You guys want to check it out? Aside from YouTube, I'm now uploading to a site called Breach TV. They're a really nice site. Sign up, just like for YouTube, is free. If anybody out there is looking to do their own videos, I highly recommend it. The ad revenue that they give you is substantially better than YouTube.
I'm gonna hopefully be putting stuff up there soon. Oh, and here we are.
And here we go.
There we go. We've stalled long enough.
Hello, Bess.
Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So, Bess, let me introduce you to my co-host, Brian.
Hi. How you doing?
Oh, hi, Brian. Good to meet you.
And I gave a little bit of an intro. Do you want to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Sure. Well, my name is Bess Goden, and I am a writer, artist, and spiritual researcher, I guess. And I run steampunkparliament.com, which is a shop and a blog. And I am gearing up to launch a new section of my blog called The Steampunk Witch. So that's going to deal with basically where science and spirituality meet. I'm very interested in looking at different religions across the world and looking at where they're similar and how that intersects with scientific research as well. So, I'm excited to get started with that. It's been a while in the works. I think when I spoke to you, Kevin, last, it was about a year ago, and I still said it was coming, but it is coming soon officially now. So
to a website near you.
Cool. So what is a steampunk witch? Is it like you've got like a steam-powered kettle or cauldron or like
Steam-powered curses, that's my assumption.
steam-powered curses? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I certainly could. I mean, technically, it is steam powered, right? Because it is a fire that is
There you go.
lighting a cauldron,
Yep.
right? There's steam that's produced. So, but so really, what the things that I love about steampunk, the things that drew me to steampunk, because I was interested in sort of the Wicca spirituality. My mother was a New Age spiritualist. So I came to the steampunk thing sort of later on. And what I really love about it is that, back in the 1800s, they had such a more generous attitude towards uniting science with spirituality.
Oh, no question.
And I think that's very interesting. So that's part of the reason why I sort of adopted that moniker. I also think that it's a lot of the things that we sort of attribute to spirituality can be explained, or possibly explained by a lot of the new theories that are coming out, in quantum theory and certain other areas as well. I mean, the more that we find out about the universe scientifically, the more it feels like there are some things that we got right when we developed religion way back before, science was a separate genre, right?
Oh, I
Because
agree
science
completely.
sort of developed with religion for a long time, and then there was a separation, right, during the period of Enlightenment. And, I think that there is a lot of cause now to sort of look at where, we've ended up scientifically and try to start relating that back to some of the knowledge that we were exploring in the past and maybe pick up some threads where we left off.
No, I agree with you completely. Just when you look at how much of modern quantum mechanics sounds like medieval theories of ritual magic.
Or Eastern.
Yeah.
Or Eastern mysticism.
energy work. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
there are so many intersections, and you wonder somehow, how some cultures develop certain things, and cultures across the world will develop things that are almost exactly the same. They just have different names, It's kind of amazing. What are we all trying to describe? I mean, is science just another language for what we're trying to describe? I believe it is.
Well, there's also, and I generally have subscribed to it, the old idea that, magic is science we don't understand yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you look at, and it's one of the, I just did a video that is not on here, but I did it on Breach and on YouTube about evolution and the fact, even as a Christian, I accept evolution as reality because the evidence says it's real. But when you look at that, there are so many Christians today that accept, they don't have an issue with evolution. There's so many other, lots of people.
Yeah.
Accept, the way I kind of look at it is, just because I understand how a miracle happened scientifically, doesn't make it not a miracle.
I completely agree. Absolutely.
Yeah. You might be interested in some of our earlier shows. We had like the Ghost Box guy.
Oh,
That's definitely a
I
it's
I heard.
definitely
Yeah,
a
I think I heard about that one.
intersection of science and
Well, I don't know.
supernatural that you might like.
I don't know if you know, Baz, but
Very
for anyone
cool.
who's listening who may not have caught that episode, a ghost box is a device based on Thomas Edison's design for a telephone to the dead
Yeah.
that was built.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
really fascinating piece of equipment. I actually have a case tomorrow
That
night. I'm
sounds
going to be
fun.
bringing mine with me.
Oh. I'll have to see if we can bring back some recordings. That would be cool.
We'll see. There's privacy issues because I am. It is a. Keep in mind, listeners, I do investigations in private homes.
Well, that's
So
true.
there's a lot of privacy issues
Oh yeah.
with that kind of thing.
Well, have the ghost sign a release. We don't care about the living people. We just want to hear the ghost. So if
That's right. That's,
you can get
that's
the ghost to
accurate.
sign a release and then
Well, it's
play
also.
some of that.
I could talk in general terms, or potentially play a video or an audio that doesn't have any.
Right.
Audio, especially that doesn't have the voice of anyone who's living there, is probably pretty safe.
Yeah, I think legally,
Yeah.
I think the law is kind of fuzzy on that. Yeah.
Well, again,
Who
audio
exactly
is that
would
you can't
sue
see the
you?
place, you can't see the people, you can't see the place, you can't hear the people. All you can hear is me talking and the spirit responding. I think I'm probably safe.
Right. And if the ghost tries to take you to court, then that right there is proof of the supernatural. So that's pretty big. That'd
It's
be
like-
pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
I mean, I think it would pay for your lawyer fees, whatever you tell that
Exactly,
story
yeah.
for.
I think if a ghost brought me to court, skip a lawyer, I'm hiring a publicist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I'll make more
yeah.
money by publicizing the heck out of my being sued by a ghost than I'd ever lose if I lost a lawsuit.
Oh yeah, no, the movie rights would be incredible.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
No, there's an actual the old Ghostbusters role playing game actually has a table to roll on for going through court, and one of the options is basically it turns into this huge PR thing about the existence of ghosts. You fire your lawyer, and you hire a PR guy, and you wind up making a fortune.
Nice. The Ghostbusters role playing game is always a lot of fun.
Oh man, that sounds great. I don't know if I've ever played it.
It's very, very old, sadly.
Yeah, it's probably one of those games that like kind of appeared and disappeared and.
Well, the
But-
company that created it was West End Games, who went out of business.
Oh yeah, they did that Star Wars game too, which was
Same
amazing.
system, basically.
Yeah, which was a great.
Which
game.
one? The Knights of the Old Republic?
No,
No,
the original.
original tabletop role-playing game for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oh,
Bunch of
sorry, I thought we were
D6.
talking about video games.
Oh
No,
no, it was
no.
a bunch of D6s.
We're
would
nerds
roll.
talking about Dungeons and Dragons style gaming.
Yeah.
Oh,
But-
you're fine. That's cool. I played
But
Dungeons and
that
Dragons.
game actually was credited in reviving a lot of interest in Star Wars and setting the.
It basically created
patterns.
as much as the EU ever had as a
Yeah.
canon was through the role-playing
Well,
game.
they used a lot of that as
Yeah.
reference books for
Yeah.
the books.
When Timothy Zahn, the guy who most often thought of as renewing interest in
Yeah.
Star Wars, wrote his books. Basically, Lucasfilm sent him a box of all the role-playing game books to give him some sort of supplemental material to work with.
Well, it was great because you had
Oh,
all
that's
these.
interesting.
you had all
yeah,
these
my
nerds sitting
boyfriend's a
around.
big fan of those books.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you had
Yeah.
a bunch of nerds sitting around thinking about, okay, well, we've seen the stuff in the movies. Now, how does it actually work? And they had to sit down and come up with some pseudoscience that actually made it work, and it was brilliant.
Yeah.
But no, I love to get back on point.
Yes, steampunk.
I do love what you're talking
Yeah.
about and the idea because they're relate, and it's I think a future not next week because next week we're doing critical thinking and skepticism, and I'm going
Oh,
to do the attempted suicide by homeopathy.
oh,
Oh,
okay.
what do you mean by that?
I'm going to take a bottle. The plan is to take a bottle of homeopathic sleeping pills on air.
Oh boy,
why would you do that? That sounds terrible for your body.
he's
Because
nuts.
a proper homeopathic sleep aid has no active ingredients whatsoever, so it won't do anything.
I knew I forgot something this week.
But we got till next
if
week, so
I
you're
were
good.
you, I would talk to me first and read me the ingredients on the bottle because actually herbology is one of the things that I will be blogging about.
There
Well-
you go.
Because and I do believe like even the sleeping like even the the herb pills that you get at like the dollar store, like the really janky ones. Even some of those have like, intensely strong, like, skullcap, for example, is a pretty common herb, and that's actually in the same class as Xanax.
Well,
so you really need to be careful.
No. Here's the thing. And
about what you take.
You're absolutely right. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
If it's a proper homeopathic remedy, and there are ones in the market that, because it's almost completely unregulated, don't actually do this, but a proper homeopathic remedy should be diluted to the point that you would need 1 milliliter of the substance in an amount of water that would encompass the entire solar system to represent the dilution levels. The point I'm trying to make with the demonstration is proper homeopathy is water.
Okay, so I think that what you're talking about is like essence stuff, because there's like a whole science of people who, like put different herbs in the water, and then the water's supposed to absorb the essence of certain things.
Yes,
and then the water itself is drunk, but not whatever's used.
Is that
what you're referring to?
It's the basis. Well, I'm not talking about herbs, because herbal remedies actually are backed up by science.
Right.
But homeopathy, specifically classically going back to its original 19th century, 18th century roots, is based on this idea that water that the smaller amount of a substance you take, the stronger the effect, which is ridiculous. And two, the idea that water retains a memory of anything, of what was put in it.
Yes.
So you could have water that at some point in the past might have been in contact with this substance, so therefore the water will heal you. Which is slightly ridiculous.
I am aware of this. Yes, that's what I was trying to describe, and I do believe that it is ridiculous.
Yeah. Let me be clear. Let me be clear both to you and to our listeners. I am by no means bad-mouthing legitimate herbal remedies. I'm specifically talking about the nonsensical belief of what I call magic water.
The memory of water. It's going to be the sequel to The Shape of Water. The memory of water. The memory of water.
The essence of water.
Yeah. It's going to be the creature cures itself of all its problems by drinking magically enchanted water.
The point I've seen made by a bunch of skeptics, I think, is very legitimate. So if water retains memory of whatever it's been in contact with in the past, that means that the water you drink, be it bottled or because let's face it, not all, but most bottled water is just tap water.
Yeah, sadly.
But bottled water or fresh water has the memory of fecal matter, because at some point it's probably been in contact with fecal matter.
Well, if it was in the ocean, there's all those fish and stuff. So yeah.
Well, not to mention a lot of our water
and possibly more than the memory.
Yeah. At one time, a lot of our water has been recycled and purified. So think about all the things that are in water at some point in the life cycle of water.
Well, just about everything on Earth at some point.
Well, if you want to circle this back to quantum theory, right? Yeah. I mean, like, essentially, no matter if you get down to like the tiniest possible level, we're constantly exchanging, subparticles on some level, right?
Yeah.
So they can't possibly have filtered out all the fecal matter from our drinking water. I mean, that's just a reality we have to live with.
Yeah.
We're probably drinking fecal matter and dead people.
Yeah. Well, honestly, Mythbusters did a rather disturbing episode on just how impossible it was to get away from fecal matter in our everyday life, and it was just like,
let's definitely change. We can talk about unicorns or something pleasant.
Yeah. It's pretty much like, just don't think about it, and
Yeah.
But unicorns are always pleasant. I hear they ride on rainbows. Or no, they ride on moonbeams.
Unicorns?
They fart rainbows.
That's right. They absolutely fart rainbows.
And if anyone watching doesn't believe me, watch Supernatural, and the one episode a unicorn shows up in, it actually does fart rainbows.
Is that for real? Oh my god.
Yeah.
I have not seen Supernatural, even though everyone yells at me to watch it, and I will watch
I
that
really
on
haven't
purpose
watched
now.
it either.
The first 2 or 3
Yeah.
seasons are really good, and then with season 4 they start getting weird. But no, there's
Yeah.
a scene in season
And now
2.
they're in like season 13. They're beyond weird.
They just did
Yeah.
a Scooby-Doo crossover,
Yep, yeah, they did a crossover with Scooby-Doo where they
which was
became-
actually pretty awesome. I watched it.
That's probably one of the good ones, but yeah, but 13 seasons in, it's kind of like most shows can't.
They've
sustain,
run through all the good ideas.
Right.
Yeah, they can't sustain
Right.
good stuff for that long.
Oh man.
But no, yeah, there's the episode in season 2 where they're investigating what they think is an angel. They don't believe. The one guy's, I don't believe in angels, but there's a ton of lore on it. There's a lot of lore on unicorns too. You know, I hear they ride on moonbeams and fart rainbows, and then in season 6, you see one, and he goes galloping away, riding on a moonbeam, farting a rainbow. It's like that was years to drop the brink of that joke, but they didn't.
Somebody waited a long time to finally. Can I put the unicorn in this episode? No. How about this one? No.
No, still no.
No.
Too much plot.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, fine. Put your damn unicorn in.
And I bet you people were ecstatic over
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Paying off a joke 4 years later. Yeah.
But so aside from herbal remedies, what other topics do you have particularly in mind for the blog?
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, essentially, it's still taking shape. But one of the first articles I was thinking about putting out was actually on the theory of quantum entanglement and how it relates to my idea of what ghosts are and the afterlife. And this is something that I'm still doing a bit of research on, so that's why I haven't finished the article yet. Mm-hmm. But I have a very sort of eclectic view of what I believe the universe to be. Now, I always say, before I get into philosophical discussions, as a disclaimer, I absolutely believe that nobody on the planet has gotten it right, okay? I don't think that any religion is correct. I don't believe that anybody can possibly fully comprehend, the universe and all of its complexity from just our perspective. I just don't believe that that's a possibility. But, however,
I kind of
that
agree
doesn't
with
keep
you.
me from theorizing about it, because I obviously really enjoy it. I'm sorry, what? Did you interrupt me?
I was saying, as a Christian, I agree with you. It's like, if you believe God is infinite, how can you possibly think we begin to understand the nature of God?
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I just agree
Absolutely.
with you on principle that nobody's gotten it right yet. We all have like little pieces of it.
And it's the other thing.
Right. I mean, compared to the life of the universe itself, our existence is so minuscule. How could we possibly think that our tiny, perception of what's going on is even anywhere remotely close to accurate? It's hilarious to me, and people get so upset about it. But it's hard to grapple with the idea that you don't know anything, right? So I did grapple with that, when I was younger, and I was trying to sort of develop my own worldview because I didn't quite agree all the way with my mother. I didn't quite agree all the way with Judaism, which is how I was brought up. And I certainly didn't believe in Christianity because I really didn't know much about it growing up, honestly. So I sort of, started on my journey, and I sort of tried to pick things that I liked that made sense to me here and there. Mm-hmm. And I started to see how, I was really into physics in high school, astrophysics. And so I started to see how some of that could connect too, to some of the things that I was brought up to believe and some of the things that I had read. So essentially, talking about the afterlife, what I believe happens when you die is essentially what science tells you happens when you die, is that your body decomposes into various forms of other matter or energy. Mm-hmm. And your energy rejoins with the universe. And you get, if you want to think of it this way, I do believe in reincarnation and the idea that some of the energy that I, exude when I die, or some of the energy that I put out through my life, because we have to remember that we're constantly, scientifically it's proven, we're constantly putting energy out of our bodies. We're constantly interacting with things and people and imbuing those things and people with our energy. So you really have to start to think of yourself as not just a physical body of who I am right now and my soul at this moment, but really like a whole, you are your whole life. Yeah. You are your whole self. You are everything that you've put out and thought and done in the universe your whole life. So I believe that that energy is can be just as powerful as the energy that you release when your body dies. So when I think of ghosts, when I think of, both of my parents are passed away, so it makes me feel better to think, and this is part of my journey of how I sort of put this theory together. It made me feel better to think of my parents as watching over me, as having a hand on my shoulder during difficult times and such. But I really hated the Our Town, if you know that show, Our Town, idea of like people just sitting on their gravestones and like commenting on life and like it just seems
I know the general idea, like, not the show itself.
Yeah, like it seems so depressing to me that ghosts would just like shuffle around and not be able to talk or touch anybody. You know what I mean? It's just if that exists at all, like I would be so saddened for those people. It just sounds like a horrible existence.
Well,
okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry, this is like, wait, this is right in my wheelhouse. So.
Yeah.
I know it is, and I don't wanna like step on any triggers here.
No, you're
either,
not.
But
you're not wrong either. Which is kind of what I want to get into, wanted to comment on, because at least in my experience and most investigators I've worked with experience, there are I would say broadly 3 types of human spirit interactions people have.
Okay, before you do, do you mind if I just put the capper on what I was saying before? I'm so sorry. So in essence, what I believe ghosts are, what I believe communication with passed on people is essentially you recalling from your being the energy that person instilled in you during their lifetime. So like when I remember my mother loved me a lot. She spent a lot of time with me. She taught me a lot about her view of the world. She, physically touched me a lot and imbued herself with me, or imbued me with herself. And so when I'm speaking to her, I'm sort of separating her from myself, as, sort of like at the end of Harry Potter when he, thinks of his parents and the stone, turns the stone and they sort of all erupt out of him, I really believe that's just as powerful as a connection, with the traditional idea of a ghost. I believe that, there are certainly other cultures that indicate those things. Native Americans and early Chinese religions pray to their ancestors, right? Yes. There are gods, but they also pray to their ancestors, and I think that there's a lot of exploring that we can do with that. So now you go ahead. I'm done.
Also have a lot of ancestor worship is I loathe to put it this way, but it's very common in most primitive cultures.
It's one of the earliest types of spirituality that tends to develop.
Even modern China, a lot of like Taoists and Buddhists, even Taoists and Buddhists in China today still worship and honor their ancestors.
Yeah, the Romans did it.
Yeah,
the Greeks.
absolutely. Yeah.
But so broadly, at least in my experience, there's 3 categories of human spirit. There is, or one of which technically isn't even really a spirit in the sense that most people think of it. One of which is probably the most similar to what you're discussing, and you might want to look into this because it fits. If you're not familiar with it, it fits what you're saying. Is sometimes known as the stone or granite tape theory, which is a theory.
What is it?
Stone.
One more time.
The stone tape theory or the granite tape theory.
Okay.
So the theory is, emotion is energy. When we get, especially when we're very emotional, we give off energy, which fits with what you're saying. Now, certain things, particularly stone, granite, and certain other stones, absorb and hold that energy. When certain triggering events happen, that energy is released in a recording of the event that left the emotion there to begin with. So this is why you'll find like a house where a murder happened, where you'll hear a gunshot on the night that it happened once a year or whatever, and things like that.
Absolutely.
Which very much I think fits what you're describing.
Absolutely.
The second category, which is the classical ghosts. In my experience, I would respectfully disagree with your interpretation because my experience of them has shown, one, of people I don't necessarily know, and 2, of things that you can directly interact with on an emotional level that seem to have a mind. Which, to me, that doesn't quite fit there. The thing I would say, because I agree, the fact that they're stuck here is horribly sad. But
unless they're a ghost con.
Yeah. But the thing is, in my opinion, in my experience, they're stuck here by their own choice. They refuse to accept that they're dead and move on. For all intents and purposes. And it's like, they're stuck here, but they're only stuck here as long as they want to be stuck here. And given human stubbornness, I don't have that much trouble accepting people. Some people are just that stubborn.
I definitely know people that stubborn, for sure.
The third category, which actually fits what you're saying, in my opinion, though I interpret it differently because of my own religious perspective, is there are souls of people who have moved on that come back. Specifically, usually to visit, the most classic example would be when your father dies, your mother dies, for example, they come back from what happens next to see you. If you want to call that heaven, hell, well, I wouldn't say hell too much, because that type of spirit, if they show human spirits from hell, they come back, that's a different, more complicated issue.
Well, you know about it.
Yeah, it's
not as pleasant.
You would know.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's very complicated. But most of the time, when human spirits come back, specifically in this context, it's positive, reassuring, loving reasons to help somebody, and that certainly fits with what you're saying is another interpretation, as opposed to them being somewhere else and coming back.
Yeah, for sure. So the second thing you said was different from my interpretation. Can I add a point about that? Just remind me what it was.
About the ones that are stuck here because they choose to be stuck here.
Oh, right.
And that they show intelligence.
So I believe that's entirely possible as well, because, I don't necessarily attribute, a sort of system to the afterlife, right? But if somebody wants to have their, life force together enough, I really honestly believe that will is the most important force in the universe.
I agree.
They can condense themselves and stay a ghost. I absolutely agree that's possible.
Yeah.
And I also agree that that there are certain spirits that were maybe not ever necessarily people.
Yes,
I certainly believe that there are possibly beings from other dimensions or further out in space that are contacting us. I believe in the possibility of many, many things that we attribute to, traditionally have attributed to sort of like, oh, this is a demon, or this is a possession, or this is, you know, I think that there's a possibility of there being other spirits that are not human. You know?
I would agree with you completely, particularly because if we, without getting into a theological debate over it, if we posit that hell exists, what is it if not another dimension?
Yeah.
Right, fair enough. And heaven as well, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I would agree completely that there are, I mean, the meat and potatoes of the work that I do is dealing with what we call inhuman spirits. This is a spirit that has always been a spirit. It wasn't it was never a living person or any other living thing.
Yeah.
But the other thing I find really interesting, and I wonder, are you going to incorporate into your article that you're working on, is some of the more recent theories about quantum theory and consciousness.
Okay. Like how our perception of quanta affects the way that it behaves? Is that what you mean?
Well, more specifically, the the conventional wisdom of materialism has always been that the consciousness is purely a product of the brain, of the chemical and electrical reactions of the brain. There's some evidence that's come out in quantum mechanics suggesting that consciousness is actually a property of the quantum side of reality, not simply a biochemical reaction.
Right, like it may exist outside of our physical form, which would be in keeping with most of the world's religions and would explain a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about.
Well, yeah, it's like...
Well, I heard a really interesting geneticist talk once about how, like when you say like your genes, for example, are, you know, like you have fat genes because your mom was fat or whatever. Mm-hmm. Your intentions could change your genetic code. Like her you know, insistence was that, you know, you aren't just, you know, given a genetic set, and then that's yours forever and it doesn't change. That's not how genetics works. Genetics works because it interacts with your choices in the environment. So you can change your genetics, and if you, you know, like are skinny and eat well and run around your whole life, then your kids are more likely to be skinny. You know, I mean, it's the same idea that, to me, you know, I'm trying to relate it to what we were just saying about quantum theory, is that, you know, plays a lot more of a will and consciousness play a lot more of a role in the physics of the microcosm than we really understand fully.
No, I agree with you 100%. I mean,
yeah.
Will is a cornerstone of pretty much everything. And, well, I'm by no means familiar with genetics enough to wade into that possibility. I'd love to get specifically, I'd love to get Francis Collins on the show if we could, was the former director of the Human Genome Project. And
cool.
That'd be a coup.
Well, he's also fascinating to me because he's an evangelical Christian who's also one of the biggest outspoken proponents of no, we need to teach evolution in schools, not creationism.
Well, I mean, I think, and the thing that people, the old nature versus nurture argument, what a lot of people forget is that, like anything, it's all a process. You know, having a predisposition to something, like my family history. You know, my dad had diabetes. You know, I have that in my genetic makeup. I ended up coming down with diabetes myself. My brother, who has a very similar genetic makeup to me, does not have diabetes. Some of it is, you know, the lifestyle we led. So you can have a predisposition towards certain things in your genes, but if you don't activate those, or if you make choices that go in a different direction, you can still change. You're not.
And we do know that your genes actually do change. I mean, do change in interesting ways. It's fascinating you brought this up because I was just watching the other day a video on one of my favorite YouTubers, Paula Gia's channel, talking about a pair of identical twins, where one had actually been an astronaut and the other one stayed on Earth.
Yes.
And when they compared the two's genetic codes when the astronaut came back, there were notable differences
Yeah,
that
apparently certain
weren't there before.
certain physical,
Interesting.
environmental things will produce changes and effects.
And our understanding
Yeah.
of quantum mechanics is so limited, and of the nature of
Yeah.
I think Neil deGrasse Tyson put it perfectly when he said, the way that you can tell that we don't understand consciousness is the fact that we keep writing all these books about it.
Yep.
We understand Newtonian physics. That's why you don't see a whole lot of books about Newtonian physics anymore.
No, because it's pretty much considered.
Once you understand things, nobody writes about it. When everybody's writing about it, nobody understands it.
Yep.
And to make and to the credit of some of the more materialistic atheists I've talked to, a lot of them will freely admit they don't know.
Well, no.
You
A
have
lot
some that
of
are like,
people-
no, consciousness is just
yeah.
this. But most of them are like, well, mate, we don't know.
Well, it's like the difference between saying,
Well-
I have a vague understanding of how the internal combustion engine works versus I can take it apart and put it back together and tell you exactly how it runs. No, there's a world of difference. And the thing that people, again, another mistake that a lot of people make, they think that science is a belief or a set of facts. It's not. Science is a process of understanding the world that you can apply to anything.
Yeah.
That's why there are different sciences and different branches.
In general, science is an attempt to refute what we think we know.
Well, there's that. It's a way of approaching something and saying, okay, we're going to test what we think we know, and if we keep getting the same result over and over again, then we can pretty confidently say we're right. If we get different results, then we have to
rethink.
We have to go back to the drawing board, and that's it's
Right.
a
But
process.
science, science has been ridiculously wrong before too.
yeah.
It's absolutely true that science is not necessarily the business of facts,
Oh, no.
but in the pursuit of facts. That's
Yeah.
so true.
Yeah.
Because it can be done badly by people that have less than
It can
perfect
be done
motives.
badly. People have the best of motives.
No,
too.
that's true. You
It's
got
the innate
confirmation
bias is
bias,
human
all that
nature.
sort of thing. You get the answer that you want to
Absolutely.
get.
Yeah. And then you can get really
Right.
good with it to get into the Heisenberg uncertainty
Oh,
principles
jeez.
and what Bess is talking about with genetics, and what you think the answer should be may in fact impact the result you get.
Sorry, the
Right.
Heisenberg principle. I'm not sure about that.
Well, there's the old joke. Heisenberg and Schrodinger were driving down the highway.
Yes.
A cop pulled them over.
I love
Cop
this
walks
joke.
up, looks at Heisenberg. Do you know how fast you were going? No, but I know exactly where I am. Cop's utterly befuddled by this answer. It's like, I'm going to have to search the car. He opens the trunk, and there's a dead cat inside. He comes up and he says, do you know you have a dead cat in your trunk? And Schrodinger goes, well, I know that now.
Well, I do. Thanks. Yeah, I love science
Nice.
jokes.
Jokes for nerds.
Yep.
Gotta say, you are such a
Love
nerd.
it.
Oh, yeah.
Love you.
Well, Rene Descartes goes into a bar, asks the bartender for another one, or for a drink. He drinks the drink. The bartender says, "Will you have another one?" Descartes says, "I think not," and vanishes.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah, I like that one too.
That's more of a philosophy joke, but
And if you have, it's
Still
still a
works.
pretty intellectual joke.
it still works. Yeah, it's a nerd joke.
And if you have
a
any
nerd
idea
joke.
what we're
I'll take
talking
it.
about out there in listener land,
Good for you.
recognize the fact you're a nerd, and
Yes.
welcome to the club.
That's right. That is so right. I would actually love to go back to you
please.
mentioned something about atheists, and actually I remember before when we were talking last year, you said there was no spiritual atheist, and I was like, well, actually I am a spiritual atheist. I do classify myself as an atheist, although I do believe in spirituality.
Yeah, I would say that too. I'm a spiritual atheist in essence.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot.
I do not believe in God, because I believe that no being, regardless of how mysterious it is superior to any other being. I'm a relativist and an equalist.
Interesting. I'm more of a humanist, but I still believe that there is something more to life than what we see, I just
Yeah.
don't think any religion
I
has
accept that
has the
answer
corner
from both
on
of
it.
you. I just don't consider. I don't think atheist is the right term.
No, well, I mean, it depends on what
Because you're
definition of
acknowledging
atheist.
something more, even if it's not necessarily. Because there are a number of religions in the world that don't acknowledge the existence of any kind of God.
Right, but that would technically be atheism. Atheism means without a deity.
Without theist, yeah.
But they're not classified. But it's an I think it's an oversimplification to call it atheist.
Well, it's
still
because
the
in common terms, atheism has now become more like anti-theism, someone who rejects spirituality and religion.
They're trying to move away from that. That's what the word traditionally has meant, is someone who rejects the existence of a supernatural being, of a God, gods, Tao, etc. And now they're trying to reinsert it into we don't know. But to me, I'm kind of, I've always preferred you have theism, the belief that there is a God. You have atheism, the belief, or at least the certainty that there is no God, and you have agnosticism, which is, I don't know. Or sometimes agnosticism is there is something, I don't know what.
Yeah. See, by that definition,
Yeah.
I'd be more in the agnostic camp, but by certain definitions, I'm in the atheist camp. So it really depends on how you're defining the terms. Which one? I mean, there was a great one that a lot of the founding fathers belonged to deism, which I actually kind of like.
God created the universe and isn't involved anymore.
Yeah, I sort of look at that as it's a reasonable compromise. Like if you had to pin me down and say, well, then who created the universe, or how did it come
Although
to
I wouldn't
be?
say a lot of the founding fathers were deists. Some of the founding fathers were deists.
There was a pretty. I mean, a lot of the
Most of
prominent
them were
ones,
Christian.
like Ben
Most of
Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, I believe were
Those
deists.
would be the two primary.
Those were primary
deists.
ones.
The rest of them were largely Christian,
some of them. I mean, a lot of them were Masons,
which are generally historically Christians.
Christian.
or actually, there's a fair amount of Judaism in their history as well.
Yeah.
But again, Masons distinctly believe in a God that gets involved, as far as I understand their belief systems, and so deism isn't quite Masonic.
Yeah.
The two confirmed deists that it's like no, everything they wrote, we know they were deists, would be Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin.
Right. Yeah. Paine was a straight up atheist.
Yeah, and most of the other ones believed in, you look at John Adams, who often gets misquoted on this, because there's a famous quote from John Adams you'll see posted all the time of, a world with, basically saying that a world without religion, or world with religion is hell. And reality, what he was saying was, no, a world without religion would be what we would call hell. Now, he and most of the, one thing in John Adams was also fairly puritanical.
Yeah, I would have no problem believing John Adams was more on the Christian side.
People don't understand a lot of the times with the founding fathers, mostly because modern Christians have lost understanding of this, as well as atheists, is secular and atheist are not the same thing. I am not an atheist, but when it comes to my view of how the government in particular should be run, I am very secular.
Yeah.
Keep religion out of government. There's the quote, I think, from Adams as well, that religion and government both work best when they're and are purest when they're separate.
Yes, that's what.
Yeah,
Government out of
agree with
religion and
that.
religion out of government.
Well, and there's a reason why the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights say Creator rather than God, which would have been very easy to go to at that time.
Well, critically, the Constitution doesn't talk about God. Neither does even the Bill of Rights. The Declaration of
by their
Independence
Creator
talks about God.
Okay.
It mostly uses the term God. But the thing is, the Declaration of Independence, and people confuse this, it's not a legal. It is basically a declaration of war. It is not a statement of law. And they were trying to.
It was more of a
God
philosophical statement.
from a philosophical standpoint to rally people. It wasn't a question of they were saying.
Oh yeah, no, they were using it to state their case for why they're rebelling against England.
Yeah, like I said, it's essentially we're going to war.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, we're down to the last 19 minutes. In fact, we're not done yet. but I did want to give out the number real quick in case anybody has a last-minute question.
Yes.
609-807-2492, 609-807-2492. This is, yet again, we've had the best luck with guests so far. The fact that we have a lot of very smart and fun people.
Yeah, well, we've chosen really good.
Yeah.
We've chosen really good guests.
Well, I had the advantage with Bess because we did the panel a year or two ago together.
Nice.
Though, and I was starting to do YouTube by then. I'm like, okay, I want an interview with you.
So Bess, what
I know we've been trying to do this for a long time. I'm so glad it's worked out.
So am I.
what drew you to steampunk as a genre? I guess now that it's pretty much become like a genre.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that it always is and was a genre.
So
That a movement grew out of the genre, of love of the genre, and of love of Ren Ferris.
Yeah.
But
I thought it was just when goths discovered the color brown.
what's that?
Well, there's the old joke I've known from a few of my goth/steampunk friends. The definition of steampunk is goths discovered a new color, brown.
Right. Yes. No. That is somewhat accurate.
I think some people just like dressing up in the Victorian fashion because it just looks cool.
Yeah.
It is, let's be honest, it is cool.
Yeah. There's something
cool.
classy about it.
Well, see, so it is a genre, and I think that and everybody that participates in it puts their own spin on it, takes their own messages from it. Does what they, believe, because we're really drawing from a whole century. My personal take on steampunk is that I believe that it can, I believe that it could be useful in modern American society to bridge certain gaps and to discuss certain political issues. A lot of steampunks are afraid of discussing political issues because there are a lot of conservatives and there are a lot of liberals, and there's a lot of butting heads about that in the community. But I strongly believe that there are things that we can all agree on. I strongly believe that there are things that there are things happening now that are very similar to things that have happened in history, and looking back at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution can inform the way that we see our economy now and how it's shaping. I believe that the technological revolution is basically another thrust of the Industrial Revolution, and I think understanding that would help us, formulate a better plan for moving forward.
Yeah, most of our modern society was kind of, the roots of it were planted in the Victorian Industrial Age.
Era.
Yeah.
No, I would agree with you completely. The history that steampunk draws on is very important. Well, history in general is pretty important, but it has a very strong impact on modern society and a lot of our views of different things. And it is also it is a cool visual aesthetic in terms of the way people dress. Yeah. I love the creativity that comes out of it. I mean, I remember at one steampunk event.
Of the artistic aspect of it as well. I love that it's bringing the handmade back to machinery.
Oh yeah,
because machinery used to be handmade. It used to be individual. It used to be decorative. And I think that that's an important thing we're trying to bring back. Sort of the love of handicrafts and recognizing that technology doesn't have to distance us from that.
Plus,
just to shoehorn that in.
Plus, you have to realize your great mad scientists are generally steampunk.
Yeah,
Dr. Frankenstein, all
Nemo. Jules Verne gave us a lot of stuff to in H.G. Wells.
One of the most coolest things I've ever seen at one of the geeky events I go to was a woman parading around with this gigantic cannon that actually shot lightning bolts. And actually seeing, it wasn't a real strong, she mostly kept it on a low setting, so you mostly get a tingle, but you actually see her at one point firing it out into somebody's hand, and you could see an arc of electricity going through the air, and it was absolutely amazing.
Oh, that's neat. It's like
Plus, the steampunk, in general, for anyone out there who hasn't gone to a steampunk event, let me just say, the people I've met in the steampunk community, on the whole, are some of the nicest people.
yeah, there are a lot of really great conventions and things now for steampunk. Some of them coming up in the near future in various places, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's great to just go get photographs with people and appreciate the cool costumes that they put together.
Yeah, it's about bringing fantasy together with sci-fi and technology, but drawing from a place of the past. I'm drawing from different time periods. I mean, and there's so many different. It's not just steampunk now. There's so many different. Diesel punk, and they call it the umbrella term is anachropunk.
Oh.
So there's a punk from every period, sort of.
Nice.
And all of it's wonderful. All of it is extremely creative, and it's basically taking things from the past and uniting them with things from the future in a very creative, innovative way. Inspiring the imagination. That's what it's about.
I'm waiting for somebody to go back and do like Leonardo da Vinci, like water punk, where they've got like pumps and hydraulics and stuff, and little wooden wings.
Steampunk sort of crosses
Oh,
over that a bit.
absolutely. There are definitely, I think for sale, I saw at one of the steampunk conventions, there are definitely like little Da Vinci wing backpacks.
Yeah, but I mean, imagine that, like sort of Renaissance punk.
Well, also,
absolutely.
People think of the steampunk engine as coming from the Victorian period. Actually, the first known steampunk engine is like ancient Greece.
Well, steam engine.
Yeah.
Well, steam engine, not steam.
Yeah. Although at the time, when Archimedes created that, it was considered nothing but a toy. They never saw. It was funny. They never saw the practical applications of it, and
he was too busy building death rays.
Well, and it was also the politicians at the time just didn't see it. I mean, if you had given something like that to the right bunch of Roman engineers, can you imagine the kind of crazy stuff they would have? I mean, Roman punk.
Yeah.
Imagine the sort of Roman.
Somebody out there make it happen. Yeah. Oh, you've seen it.
Roman engineering combined with steam engine.
I've seen a punk from every century at this point.
Oh,
that's
God.
awesome.
I want to write that series.
Go for it.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
much research.
And the black community, Afropunk is going on right now. I don't know if you guys saw Black Panther.
Oh, yeah.
But
what a great movie.
Fantastic movie.
Huge Afropunk movie. People were obsessed with that, and it was fantastic.
Beautiful, intelligently done, good villain, great acting.
Yeah.
Anyone listening who hasn't seen it, go see the movie.
Yeah, it was a really good
wonderful.
quality movie.
Definitely one of the best that Marvel's put out.
All right, so we're getting close to the end, so it might be time for you to plug whatever books and
your website
and all of that.
Yes, well, thank you so much. Please follow me on my website, steampunkparliament.com. Just go there and sign up for the email list, and I give away freebies and coupons, and you get all the updates with the email list.
I'll put a
you
link
can also
to that
follow
in the
me on
description.
Facebook and Instagram and all those good stuff, and those links are also on my website.
Awesome.
But yeah, folks, if you're having trouble spelling Parliament, I'll make sure that when I post this to YouTube and Breach.tv, I'll put the link in the description.
There's an I in it. There's an I in it.
Yes,
Well, you gotta
there
really-
is an I in it.
some
I
people
have to
like
say
me,
that
they have a
every
hard
time I
time
type it
spelling
myself.
Yes, Parliament.
Yes,
Spell
thank
check
you.
is your
But I do.
friend.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm an artist and a writer. So I have blog posts, and I also have handmade jewelry and pins, stickers, illustrations. I have Nikola Tesla wall plaque in my Etsy shop. So definitely go and peruse. I like to say there's something for everyone there.
Awesome.
So.
Having perused
Thank
your
you so
stuff, I
much.
definitely recommend people check it out.
It's very cool.
Bess, I want to thank you for being a guest. I am so glad we finally put this together.
Me too, and I would absolutely love to do it again sometime. This has been wonderful. Thank
Which,
you
of
so
course,
much
is my
for
next
having me
comment.
on.
Is like I've said to every other, but happy to be able to say to every guest I've had so far, you are very much welcome back.
Yes.
Okay,
Aw,
folks.
thank you. That's great.
Okay, folks, we're wrapping it up for tonight. I want to remind everybody, like, comment, and share us on YouTube, and if you can on Breach. Again, remember, if you want to get a free audiobook, audible.com, audibletrial.com/paranormale, audibletrial.com/paranormale. The link is at the bottom of the screen. I'll be putting it in the description as well. You get a month's free trial, a free audiobook, and it helps the show out. So if you guys are trying to support us and you don't have enough money, if you got some money you want to donate to, you can do patreon.com/demonology. But if you want to support us and you don't have any money, Audible's a great choice.
Yes, do that thing. There are some great quality vampire books up there.
Yes, you might look up a guy by the name of Brian McKinley even.
Yeah, maybe.
If you want to check out his book for free,
yes,
you got that option.
It's worth every penny.
But that's going to do it for tonight. Remember to tune in next week when it'll be just us again talking about the importance of critical thinking and particularly some medical quackery.
And the importance of being earnest.
Oh, yes.
Really? Really?
We're going to be drying up later for that one.
Yeah.
But for that's going to be it for tonight. I want to say good night, everyone, and God bless.
See ya.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.